Hi, I'm Sanjana. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Lockdown Literary Club. So, today I wanted to talk about a book I read recently, which I think everyone should read, and that book is Dear Ijeawele, A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Chimamanda is an author who's published a lot of renowned books like Purple Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun, Americana, which is a book I'm going to be reading sometime in the next few months. But this book is actually a letter Chimamanda wrote her best friend. So her best friend gave birth to a daughter and then asked Chimamanda how to raise the said daughter as a feminist. So Chimamanda, for that simple but loaded question, wrote in response a really long letter, which had 15 points on how to raise the daughter as a feminist. And that letter she later published as a book, which I'm holding in my hand. So this book, when I initially read it, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great read. I thought it was very well written. I've heard of Chimamanda before because I watched her be interviewed by Trevor Noah. I obsessively watch all of Trevor Noah's videos. I thought she was a fantastic guest on The Daily Show and that she was a really eloquent speaker. But it turns out she's a pretty badass writer too. So on finishing this book, though I really enjoyed it, I initially only gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. And that's because as brilliant as this book is, I thought it left out sections of the population. As she's giving these suggestions, she's only focused on how to raise daughters as feminists and not sons, and also focused on a heteronormative relationship between a man and a woman. It made sense in the context of book because she's writing a letter to a friend who's married to a man and has a daughter. I get it, that's the audience it was envisioned for, but as a foundational feminist text, I thought it just excluded like queer couples, queer couple parenting, queer children, and other gender inclusivity. But then my mother read this book, and that completely changed the way I looked at this book, because having taken gendered study classes and other humanities classes, I am always forced to look at text with the lens of a researcher or an academic approach to everything. So I'm always forced to think about the intersectionality of race, class, sexuality when it comes to gender studies. I was so focused on the inclusivity of everyone that I didn't think about how accessible of a text this is, because my mom does not read at all. Every time she picks up a book, she might get through a page and falls asleep and then never does not try for another 5 years. Not only did she pick this book up, she read it in one shot, and her review was that she really liked it. At times it felt like Chimamanda was lecturing her, but she didn't really mind it. And that kind of blew my mind, because my mom is pretty cool. She's always open-minded and willing to have discussions about the next progressive thing I'm harping on about. I get angry and I yell, and the point of the discussion is lost in my frustration. So Chimamanda managed to do something that I could never do, which is simply, concisely, and empathetically explain the premise of feminism and how to practice feminism, which is why I think this is a book everyone should read, especially because Chimamanda is from Nigeria, and I feel like the African society resembles India and a lot of the global south when it comes to the orthodoxy of the society. There seems to be similar overarching notions about gender roles in most of the global south. The reason I think this book is so essential is not because I think just by following the 15 suggestions we will eradicate sexism in this world and gender roles, but rather the premise that it starts with. And these are the 2 premises that you need to believe in and practice. And I'm actually going to quote those 2 for you. The first is your premise, the solid, unbending belief that you start off with. What is your premise? Your feminist premise should be, I matter. I matter equally, not if only, not as long as, I matter equally, full stop. The second tool is a question. Can you reverse X and get the same results? So the second premise in a nutshell is that in any situation in your life, can you swap the gender of a person and the result would be the same? So the example she gives is, if a man cheats on a woman and you advise the woman to forgive the infidelity, can you switch the roles, still give the same advice? So assuming the woman cheats on a man, would you advise him to forgive the infidelity? which I think is a really great tool we can all apply in our lives. Every time you make a gendered statement or there's a gendered situation, think about it. Ask yourself, can I switch the gender of the person here and still the result would be the same? Or I would give the same advice, or I would have the same response? And if not, then you should confront your biases, the double standard that exists there, and why that is. There's this thing Jamila Jamil says, that she's a feminist in progress, which I really identify with. I don't get everything right all the time. I'm always trying to learn the next thing, because this is a societal thing. I don't think sexism is just men oppressing women. I think sexism is society. Like I'm sure I have some deep-seated sexist views that I haven't even thought about yet. And every time you are confronted with a view that you have, you should be able to willing to discuss it, to analyze it, and see what changes need to be made. So I am myself a feminist in progress. Above all, I think it's a really good book, and because of how approachable and accessible it is, I think it's a 5-star read. Just because a book is simple and uncomplicated does not mean it's not as accomplished. I would highly recommend you pick this book up and read it. It's really short. It's 60 pages. My mom read this book in an hour, and she never reads, so I'm sure most people can get through it in like half an hour in your lunch break. At no point is Chimamanda in this book condescending or reprimanding, which is something I could never achieve. So for that reason alone, she's amazing. So check it out. And that's it. That's it for today. Please, if you've read this book, leave me a comment. If you read any other books by her, let me know how you like them. If you read Americana, please don't spoil it for me. I'm really looking forward to it. And that's it. I will catch you guys next time. Bye.